Hello and welcome back to another video. In this episode I have some really cool things to show you, so stick around for the ride and I'm sure you will enjoy. To ensure a good dive, it's important to gain some karma first. Picking up rubbish is a great way to do this. Conditions this day were pretty much as good as they get. Beautiful clean water, almost 20 meter visibility, nice and warm with a strong northerly current, ensuring heaps of fish. It is common to find John Dory underneath schooling fish, however this day was exceptional. There was an outstanding number of John Dorys here today, and we capitalised as a result, getting both great footage and great fish. Because of the spectacular abundance this day, I decided to try something different. Here I'm going down and leaving my gun at the surface. John Dory are quite a misunderstood fish. A lot of people regard them as stupid. I wouldn't necessarily say the same, however they don't have a lot of street smarts. They have amazing camouflage systems and they rely on them very heavily, almost entirely for evading predators. However, when you've seen them, they can often make themselves an easy target. When they want to be, John Dory can be quite quick, much too quick to outswim. However, they're often very reluctant to use their full power to escape you. As a result, I've caught quite a few John Dory now by simply stabbing them with my gun. However, this time I'm using my knife. Here in the Coromandel, John Dory are fairly common year round. However, it often takes a trained eye to be able to get onto them. Often the hardest part about shooting a John Dory is finding it. The shooting part that comes second is often a lot easier in comparison. When looking for John Dorys, you're often looking for weed lines and schooling bait fish. When you can find both, such as in this area, you're in the right spot. It's only a matter of time until you see one if you look hard enough. So I'm definitely not the first person to stab a John Dory with a knife. I've seen multiple videos of it before, but I'm happy to join the exclusive John Dory Knifer Club. As well as John Dory, this day there were a lot of snapper. They were schooling up over the kelp in large groups. Moving out towards the front upcurrent end of the reef, I found the big dog trebs. There were a lot of trebs today, except they were all mostly small borderline legal fish. These ones here were a lot more substantial in size. I make an attempt to get to the bottom and try bring them in from there, as I was sitting too deep to try and shoot from the surface. However, they spooked and it was the last time I saw them. Here I throw my knife above the surface and let it float down. Using my knife as an improvised throw flasher, I'm hoping to bring in some of the snapper so I can get a shot into one. As I'm descending, I have my gun trained on the knife, expecting something to rush in at any moment. However, this doesn't eventuate. I make it to the bottom and crawl my way over to my knife, still scanning around as any predatory fish in the area could be coming in about now. My little knife trick didn't quite have the desired effect. However, I still got plenty of air and plenty of bottom time left to try and make something happen. So I'm going to put my knife in my belt, hold tight and see if I can bring in any fish. Here the school trevally have come in to have a look, providing some nice cover for me from the other fish in the area. Out in the distance I can see the school of snapper start moving the way gradually closer. In such clean water it can make it really difficult hunting snapper as they'll keep more of a distance. If the visibility was half, they'd be twice as close. Even when they're schooling up in large schools, shooting snapper can still be very challenging. They don't like eye contact and they don't like you pointing your gun at them, which makes them very difficult to shoot a lot of the time. Eventually I managed to entice the school a little bit closer and get a shot into one of the small snappers hanging out at the front. Due to the long distance, I had misjudged my shot, hitting the fish quite high and in the back. When I know I've got a bad shot on a fish, but not terrible, I'm still going to try and get it off the bottom. The worst place you can leave that fish is in the kelp, to tangle up, get eaten by other fish, and break off. If the fish can get itself some leverage around a rock or something, you're much more likely to lose it than if you're playing it by hand. So here, I get myself to the surface, and I'm fighting the fish with my shooting line. Slowly bringing it up, giving it line when it needs, but not giving it too much either. Using big roller guns on reef fish often runs the chance of stringing the fish, which is where your shaft goes entirely through and the fish goes onto your shooting line. When the fish is going down your shaft and onto the flopper which hasn't been set properly, it can be a very dangerous part of the operation. It's important to have your flopper correctly tuned to avoid losing fish. This day I was diving with the bro David. This was his literally second or third time diving, and we ended up in about 10 meters of water, with me going down, pointing out John Dory, him swimming down and having a crack at them. Despite being a relative beginner, David was a great buddy to have out. He was very enthusiastic and quick learning. This day I could have absolutely caned it. I could have pretty much got my limit on John Dory this day. Got a mean photo for Instagram, got heaps of likes, but it's just senseless. I was more interested in getting my buddy onto the fish and sharing the enjoyment with him. Here David gets down to the bottom, lines up and takes a shot on a nice John Dory. Ayo, run it back, let me get a slow motion replay. Alright, here's some advice for new divers. Avoid using your arms when you're swimming towards the surface. It's a lot less efficient oxygen wise than using your fins and kicking that way. When you shoot fish and you get a good shot on your fish, you should do everything you reasonably can to make sure it comes up to the surface with you. This generally means holding onto your gun and ascending, or often going after the fish, tackling it and bringing it up to the surface on the shaft. The common mistake I see is people shooting fish and then leaving them there. Luckily, when I'm your dive buddy, I can go down and secure the fish for you. When diving, it is important to consider both experience level and conditions. Today I was diving with a relatively inexperienced diver, however the conditions were fantastic, allowing us to go out to some deeper water and get him some experience in that. When you take out a beginner diver as a more experienced diver, it is your responsibility to look after them, to make sure that they're safe as well as have a good time. This often means keeping an eye on them, and if you can, point out some fish. As you know, underwater communication has numerous obstacles. Our system today was pretty much me going down to the bottom, spotting the John Dorys, and pointing to David from the surface. But it can be difficult when you're pointing at fish hiding in the kelp that are very well camouflaged to someone who's at least 10 meters above you. Here David's coming down from the surface at a 45-degree angle, lining up on this John Dory and missing. They can be quite hard to shoot when they turn front or back onto you. Their side profile is very easy to hit, however they can make themselves very small. This John Dory wasn't too fazed by the whole ordeal and kind of stuck around. They often seem very reluctant to move and find it seemingly quite bothersome when they get shot at and missed. Here comes David again, looking for a bit of redemption, this time getting a lot closer to the bottom and the fish is presenting him a much better shot, turned side on. He takes a long shot here, hitting the fish well. There's a bit of a running joke among sparrows when it comes to shooting John Dory in the bullseye. It's not the ideal shot as you hit a lot of the fillet, however if you can see the bullseye you've got a good angle on the fish and you can make a good shot. The diving today was honestly incredible, however we made a conscious effort to limit the amount of fish that we took. Over this day I stabbed one John Dory and shot one snapper. However, I was presented with many more opportunities that I didn't take for sustainability reasons. There's no point shooting fish just for Instagram photos and followers. Thanks for watching. This video's sustainability message is take out new divers and teach them sustainable practices.